Hello. If you've happened to stumble upon this video, welcome. This is our project for our organizational behavior class. We decided to talk about toxic work environments because we feel this is something that affects everyone at least once in their lifetime. There are some days where we may dread going into work. I know I do, especially when I was having the most blissful sleep. However, when you feel like that every day, it's possible you may be the victim of a toxic work environment. In this guide, we will define what a toxic work environment is, list some common traits, evaluate our priorities, and decide the best way for us to move forward. Just a disclaimer, we are not experts. However, we have gathered a substantial amount of research from academic articles, journals, and doctoral theses to give multiple perspectives. We hope this guide will be helpful to you along your journey.
Let us begin by defining what a toxic work environment is. Most people have an idea of what it means when the term toxic work environment is used, but it is not often defined because of that. To have a basic understanding of this term as we discuss it throughout this presentation, let us break it down and define each word. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, toxic is defined as containing or being poisonous material, especially when capable of causing death or serious debilitation. Work refers to a job or occupation, and environment is the setting and people that make up the atmosphere of work. When we put those three definitions together, a toxic work environment can be defined as an atmosphere of a job that is harmful to others. If we dive a little deeper into this term, we know that physical environments can have potential hazards. Still, a work environment really focuses more on the people who make up the environment. People can be what makes an environment toxic through their behaviors and interactions because how people use their hard and soft skills affects the atmosphere of a work environment. When these stressors continue without resolution, tension in the atmosphere increases, and that builds a work environment that becomes toxic. A toxic work environment is a state in which no one wants to be in. But to work towards a resolution, we must know what a toxic work environment looks like. Now, there is not a specific formula for identifying a toxic work environment, but taking the time to learn what the traits look like and how they present themselves can help to prevent a toxic work environment from forming. That said, we will now look at the traits of a toxic work environment and learn what they are.
Now that you've learned what a toxic work environment is, let me help explain what the traits look like from the research done by Ashley McCulloch. From their studies, McCulloch described that there are four main areas that toxicity can derive from in a workplace. These main areas are the leadership role, colleagues and customers, work processes, and organizational culture. Unsurprisingly, each one of these areas can go hand in hand and create a very unpleasant and toxic workplace. Toxic traits from leaders are typically seen as abusing their power, roles, and workers. Toxic leaders are said to approach their roles in a short-sighted and unethical manner. They consistently avoid making decisions until a crisis arises and change direction suddenly without any clear rationale. This is deemed to be unpredictable and inconsistent and can be very frustrating and confusing to work under. Toxic leaders can also be more direct with their harm by showing little appreciation for their followers' ideas, micromanaging, and taking all the credit for their department's success and blaming others for their shortcomings. Now, toxicity from colleagues is more scarce, but it still does occur. These toxic incidents are recognized as gossiping, spreading rumors with malicious undertones, threats, bullying, and obviously any physical harm. Anybody in a situation like this would despise the idea of coming to work and would more than likely want to quit, which is not healthy for anyone. Thirdly, as we have seen, toxic traits stem a lot from interpersonal relations, but in this case they also come from the work processes. The lack of structure can be harmful as it creates a systemic source of stress. Some examples of these would be stressful production processes, and this is especially seen when they are scheduled inefficiently or when systems of control are excessively rigid. Not to forget poor supervision, unreasonable performance targets, and increasingly added workloads that hinder a worker's personal life. Lastly, we have the organizational culture. Toxicity from organizational culture would essentially be adverse behavior that is allowed or lacks the mechanism to control it. This would be a culture that supports destructive behavior. However, there is also culture inhibiting remedial behavior. This is workplace toxicity that would be a culture that inhibits any behavior that would help solve the issue. Research show that in instances like this, outside forces can control a leader's behavior, such as economic hardships, which in turn cause the leaders to focus on impossible performance goals and lack of incentives, causing harm to a worker's well-being.
What are your priorities? In the context of identifying a toxic work environment, we're going to explore how understanding and setting priorities can make a significant difference. To address the question, what are your priorities within a toxic work environment, let's begin by emphasizing the importance of prioritizing workplace well-being. Tawari and Jaws' research found that narcissism, toxic work culture, and abusive supervision can wreak havoc on employees' well-being. Prioritizing your mental and emotional health is crucial. The toxic work environment not only affects your well-being, but also warps your priorities. It's essential to recognize these shifts. As Ashley McCulley at Carleton University highlights, toxic work environments can make employees prioritize survival over the career goals and personal lives. Now let's talk about how you can reset priorities if you find yourself in a toxic work environment. A systematic approach to job transitions can help you regain control over your priorities by evaluating your skills and values. You can align your career goals with your well-being. One more aspect to consider when setting your priorities is finding the right balance and support. In difficult situations, it's essential to seek support from friends, family, or professional help. Balancing work and personal life is another vital aspect of your priorities. Make time for activities that rejuvenate you and spend quality time with loved ones. In conclusion, your priorities in a toxic work environment should start with your well-being. Recognizing the impact on your priorities and actively resetting them can lead to a healthier, more balanced work life. Remember, your priorities matter, and they should include a workplace that respects and values your well-being.
Once you've figured out your own personal values and priorities, it's time to find a company that will align with them. To better explain, I have pulled an article by Dr. Edward Baker and Dr. Susan Murphy titled A Systematic Approach to Job Transitions: Finding Your Way and Landing in Your Best Place. I highly recommend this for anyone that is considering leaving their job for any reason at all. The article highlights the critical steps needed to transition. First, you must decide why you want to leave and what you will gain from leaving the position. It's important to weigh out the good and the bad before completely jumping ship. But if that ship is going to sink, it's time to get a lifeboat, which in this case would be a new job. Second, you must think about what traits you want your new job to have. Think about the number of responsibilities you may want to have, how much work-life balance you desire, and the values of the company. Make sure you do plenty of research on the company as well. Don't pick the first job you see either. It is good to have multiple options to choose from. Third, it may be good to brush up your interview skills. Find time to speak to a mentor or success coach. Not only will this help you freshen up, but it will help increase your motivation as well. No matter how toxic your current job is, continue to do good work. It will keep you in the mindset of being a good employee while you are planning your exit. After narrowing down your options and getting hired, you'll be able to leave your current position on good footing. Everyone deserves to be where they want to be on their own terms. Never should you feel afraid to speak up or afraid of retaliation. Jobs are our lifeline in society, so it's incredibly important for the work environment to be positive and growth-oriented. If there's anything we want you to take away from this, remember that your feelings matter. And if you ever feel that something isn't right for you, you are always allowed to change your mind. We wish you the best.